Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
It is my privilege to welcome a new friend, somebody who knows our industry very, very well, been doing it for a long while, very, very successfully, from beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. Wendy Lindahl, how are you today?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And let's just start at the top. Tell people a little bit about your career, how long you've been in the industry, some of your experiences, what you did maybe even before.
Yeah, I came to the industry. I was working, believe it or not, for a company that thrived in the utility industry. So, but my role there was really in human resources. So when the company went through a transition, I left, and this industry was a perfect fit for me, being in that human element all the time, I'm going to say. So I've been in the industry now for, oh my gosh, 22 years, I'm going to say. Started off with a name that I think everyone knows, which is Avon Products. And it was a perfect transition and a great place for me to start, again, with one of the icons, I'm going to say, was living in a small town in rural Wisconsin, a town of 603.
Wow.
And it was an incredible opportunity for me to take the skills that I had and really thrive in a small town, I'm going to say, where there weren't a lot of options, by the way. So, that has led me into this path of being in the industry. And I think once you become, familiar with what this industry can do for you, it's hard to leave. So my path has kind of meandered, I'm going to say, like many in the industry over the years. But my passion has really become helping people through the same moments that I had when I started out in the field, doing, all of the incredible things and helping people to thrive wherever they were.
Well, let's stay on that subject for a minute, and let's talk specifically about women. So many women are in our industry, part-time, full-time, super successful in some cases. A lot of cases just want to make that extra, what they used to call pin money. I remember my mother used to call it pin money years ago. So let's talk about that. Why are so many women looking for a side hustle like what you're doing right now?
I think like many of us, I was a single mom when I started in the industry, had two little babies at home, and it really was the space and place where I could make an income for myself, and it really didn't matter where I was or what my experience was, and all of those things. I think when you look at it today as a side income, it's such a flexible space to be. Again, as a mom, you want to have time to do the things that you're passionate about as well. You want to be able to be there to raise your children. I feel like many people get to give their children a great gift of being able to see work and all of those things that we do each and every day. And I could say I saw that in my own children throughout the time. But I think today it just allows us to have control of those revenue channels that we want to have in our home. And, I think today people are adding more and more revenue channels into their lives because it's a changing environment. And I think that's amazing.
Well, what's amazing too is that your business does well over $100 million a year in sales, I believe, which is phenomenal. So let's talk about that a little bit, but let me give you a hypothetical question.
Sure.
So you run your business obviously from home, like I do,
Yep.
like most of our listeners do, right? A few of them have office space for whatever reason, but I've never seen a reason for it. I think it's just an added expense. But and I think the last few years are reflected in that. We'll talk about that a little bit. But let me give you just a hypothetical. So let's
Sure.
just say there's a mom and a daughter living down the street from you there in beautiful Scottsdale, and they notice your lifestyle. They notice, you can go walk the dog in the afternoon if you want. You can go for a run if you want. You can go to the pool when you want. And they start to notice that from a distance. Maybe they don't even know you well, but they're observing, right? That, hey, how come every time we're home, she's home? And one day they figure out, they ask another neighbor, and they say, oh, well, she's in one of those direct selling businesses, and she's really successful with it, blah, blah, blah. And the 25-year-old daughter, college educated, right? Did everything right, went to school, got good grades, worked hard in the classroom, got out, got a job, career starting to grow. Mom, other end of the spectrum, about 60 years old, was looking at, hey, maybe it's time to play with the grandkids, work on my golf game, do what I want to do, right? Save enough money, worked hard my whole life, getting to the end of the work life. And all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, we know what happened, right? And
Yeah.
they say, you know what, let's go down the street here this afternoon and let's see if Wendy can spare an hour, maybe she can educate us a little bit as to why get into the direct selling space today.
Yeah, I think the story would be that this is the best time to be in our industry, in the fact that it allows us, again, that flexibility to create a career where we're in control of that, and it gives us the opportunity to build, whatever legacy we want to have. And along the way, I think the greatest power that we have is that we get to put to use all of our amazing skills that we all have. We all have our own superpowers, and they apply, in so many places in this world and in this space. And you know what? We get to help others. We get to help others each and every day, and so we can feel really good about that at the end of the day. I think it's so empowering for people to know that this industry allows them the freedom and the flexibility to create their own success story. And I think once people hear that and they understand that, that's what really draws them in.
Exactly. So let's talk about a few of the skills that I know that you teach your people, and something that you're passionate about is teaching people how to beat the P word, procrastination.
That is the one. And I think I have become a master at it, of overcoming my own procrastination. I think all of us are guilty of the P word at times. But it's something I'm really passionate about, because I feel like when you remove the procrastination tendencies and you really start to understand your own behaviors, that's really where success comes from. That's where the consistency comes from. That's where the doing the key challenges of every day are working through those things that interrupt us, I'm going to say. And so I really do. I talk about procrastination, and I teach how to kind of overcome it by, again, understanding our own behaviors. It's just like, I'm going to say, an exercise program. We have to create those new habits that bring us to a different space and a place. And when we're conscious of those decisions or those choices of our time, we start to understand our triggers, and we start to understand how we can get better at doing the things that we do. Because the reality of this business is, you don't have to do this business full time. What you hope is that you do things efficiently, so you have more time to do the things that you love, right? And I think that's part of that joy of flexibility of this industry, is it allows us to do things really, really well, things that make a difference in our day. And again, then we get to use that extra time to do the things that we love. And for me, that's my goal for everyone, is I want people to have that balance in life that often eludes us today, especially in the crazy world that we're living in. My ultimate goal is that through beating our procrastination, that, the gains that we get far outweigh the challenges that we have getting to that point. So that's definitely a focus for me.
So let's talk about goals. You used the word goals. Let's talk about that a little bit. How can people better, male and female, okay, how can they get their personal goals better and their business goals better? What skills can they apply that perhaps they're not applying, or they're procrastinating? They know the skills, but they're not using them. To go back to the last question. But how can they do that? How can they focus on their goals and achieve them starting here in 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, I think, everybody's goals are, unique and specific, but I think you have to have, the North Star to work for. You have to know, ultimately at the end of the day, what is it that you need to achieve? So I'll use my own life as an example. As I said, I started in the industry as a single mom with 2 children at home. I know that I needed to pay the bills. I knew what that was. I know that I wanted to have the vacation that I wanted to take them. I had a system of priorities that were important to me. And that was my North Star. Okay. That was what drove me. From that, then you can break that down and you can break those into smaller goals. But I think with the challenge that we often have today is people don't know what their goals are. They don't take the time to stop and say, what do I really need? What do I really want? And how do they define that path to get there? And so that is really what it takes, is to break that down. So when I'm working with individuals, I really get pretty granular when it goes to goals, because I want to know really at the end of the day, what is it that makes our heart sing? Because that's what gets us into action. If we don't really have that, yes, bills have to be paid, right? But again, for me, it was, I want to give the quality of life to my children as well. And if we don't get to that granular part of it, we tend to get lost in the actual steps that are going to get there. We find too many excuses. We find too much procrastination. We find too many other things that take us away from the things that we ultimately want in life. And at the end of the day, you know what, we can have anything we want to have. We have to have that stuff in our heart that get us there.
Exactly. So let's talk about mindset a little bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mindset of people who achieve, mindset of people who want to achieve but don't. What's the differentiation?
Oh, again, I think we are our own worst enemy in this industry and in many things in our lives. And so I think it's about, those people who are successful become unstoppable, because again, they have that in their heart where they're going. The people who I see who fail are the ones who let the insecurities and the perfection and all of those things get in the way of taking the step. And so I think it's really about the courage to take those steps, even if we're not good at it. Because I'd like to say I'm great at everything, John. I really would, but I'm not. But I do every day. And I think all of those who really strive for our goals, is, what, we just keep forging ahead, and we really put our mindset in the way that says that I may not be perfect today, but I'm going to be the best that I can be. And I've seen some really incredible success stories come from people who may not have done it perfectly, but they kept going. They kept moving forward and knew that they were going to learn along the way. And that's kind of part of this journey, and that's really kind of this journey called life, isn't it? We'd love to say we can just take a pill and everything falls into place, but it doesn't work that way. We just have to be solid in it.
Would you say that the people who just keep showing up eventually get where they want to be, or better than they were, at least? Certainly.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I love the saying, and many people have said, I want to be 1% better today than I was yesterday. And if we take those steps, we do learn along the way. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our successes. We learn from every experience that we have, but it's a choice if we choose to use them as a stepping stone versus something that holds us back.
So let's talk a little bit about actual contact capital and accumulation. You've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you still generate new people to talk to about your business, right? Because you've probably gone through the warm market already, and how do you meet those new people? What tools are you using? Be they technology tools, be they interpersonal tools, be they, what are you using today to meet people and share your business with them?
Oh, you know what? This is a skill that I learned growing, a business in a very small town, is that I learned to always be, I'm going to say, a billboard for what I'm doing. And there is an opportunity in every connection. I'm still old school, I like to say. I still believe in the power of the connection. But I always say this: I never look at a name or an individual. I always look at a network. And it's something that I had to master, again, growing in a small town, because I couldn't take one step at a time. In other words, I couldn't just go one by one by one. What I really wanted to do was take those bigger strides and leaps towards success through the networks of people that they had. So I always look at it as, I want to understand when I make a relationship with someone, really what are my opportunities there? And these are general things that you think of anyways. I always wanted to know, tell me a little bit about your family. Why did I want to know that? Because most of our clients, our customers, our team members, there's more than one in a household, right? There's more than one user in that household. And so it's a great way to start understanding what that network looks like. I really looked at who worked outside the home. You know, some of the greatest team members I've had are those individuals who have other streams of income, but they also have other built-in audiences. You know, I always look to see, what do you like to do? Tell me a little bit about, your life, because that leads you to a book club, a running club, red hat societies, you name it, right? And then I always look for need. I am always looking for, what is the space and place that I can help you from a financial standpoint. And, that's when you start to pay attention to who's getting married, who has a baby, who's, wanting to go on that family vacation, who has kids in college. So what I started to learn is the art of looking at networks, because once you start doing that, your world really widens up. And when you start teaching that to others, their world starts opening up. It is truly a win-win situation. So when I look at how I was able to build success, way back when I started in this industry in a town of 603 people, it was ultimately about being a networker and being the person who, again, looked for opportunities. And it really was an opportunity to be intentional without feeling intentional. I lived in a small town. When you're living in a small town, you either know everybody or you're related. Okay. They're going to be around the table somewhere. Okay. So I never wanted to be that person that when I showed up at somebody's house, they turned the lights off and hid behind the furniture. That wasn't the goal, So how I approach people, and again, when you start to build those networks, those are questions you ask when you're building relationships anyway. So I felt comfortable in looking at those opportunities. And again, today, I still do the same thing. When I meet a new individual and I start talking, I start asking the same questions, and that builds those opportunities to bigger audiences that I can reach. So it's been really effective for me.
Great, great. So let's talk about this a little bit. Now, you're in the beauty industry,
I am.
and we never really talk about companies specifically here. Once in a while, they get referenced, but no big deal. But you've been in the beauty industry a long time,
I have.
and the beauty industry is growing, I believe, exponentially as one of the areas that a lot of people are looking at and getting involved with.
Yeah.
Why do you think the beauty industry is exploding the way it is? Not just in direct selling, but in general. It just seems like it's going through incredible growth right now. Why do you think that is?
I think we have a population that is aging, right? We have a population that is our lifespan is getting longer. People are paying attention. So I'm predominantly in skincare. So, you really see people wanting to take care of themselves. They really want to, feel good about themselves. I think people are willing to invest in that. And so, I think that's what the heart of it has really been this passion for, how do we age well? I'm going to say, how do we, continue down this path of life changes, and how do we do that through, incredible products? So I have found that, I think, even during, the tough years that we had when people were at home, there was still a boon of people wanting to look good. It was that moment that they felt good about themselves. And so we see that continue now that we're in a different space.
Great. I'm going to let Wendy catch her breath for 30 seconds here, and I'm going to do a quick commercial, and then it's going to lead me to my next question. So, because my wife says if I don't advertise on my show, she listens to them all, then I get in trouble. So let me just advertise a little bit and lead me to my next question. Now, the name of our show, folks, obviously is Leaving Nothing to Chance. If you're new, Wendy, you are, I think, somewhere around my 100th show, believe it or not. So,
oh my gosh,
I meant to count this morning. We've been doing this for 2 years now. Every other Tuesday, we have a new show on. Anyway, the book is called Leave Nothing to Chance, that I wrote. And I was sharing with Wendy earlier, what happened was during COVID, I had no way to get these books out to the marketplace. I was a meeting guy. I flew all over the world doing meetings, and all of a sudden, you don't have an audience, right? So, and my prior book, Moving Up 2020. So these are available on Amazon, of course. Thank Jeff Bezos, he markets them for us. They're available in Spanish as well as English. But anyway, and they're digital, by the way, folks. So you don't have to buy the actual books if you don't want to, and you don't have to buy the books at all if you don't want to. But 40-year track record, and I talked to so many great people like Wendy, and some of their stories are there, and some of their tidbits are there, like what you're getting from Wendy today, to help you, most importantly, become the best version of you. So, Wendy, the question is self-development. How important has that been for your life and also for your business?
Oh, I think we have to always be students in life. I think it helps us in every aspect of life. Every time we learn a new skill or a new nugget of knowledge that comes our way, again, it helps us to be better in the spaces and places that we want to thrive. And I can use an example, meeting individuals like yourself, you always take home something, that is in your toolkit, I'm going to say, that helps you to be better, but by the, at the things that you want to do. And so, yeah, I think it's something that we do daily. And I think we get it from unlimited sources if we choose, because I've learned from people outside of the industry. I've learned from, the neighbor down the street. I've learned from those happenstance meetings that happen. There is knowledge to be gained. And we hope that we can move that knowledge forward, right? That we can take our learnings and that we get to bequeath it on others as we continue on our path. And I think that's how we pay it forward in life.
Wow, you're absolutely right. And, it reminds me, years ago, I was running sales for a company here in Dallas. This is going back now almost 25 plus years ago. And I had lunch with Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was in town, and one of my colleagues had worked for him at one time. So he said, "You want to have lunch with Jim?" And I'm like, "Jim who?" And, a lot of Jims in the world. He's like, "Jim Rohn." It's like, no, I think I'm busy. I think, I think I'll find a way to work it into my schedule. So we go to lunch with Mr. Rohn, and we're sitting there, myself and these two other gentlemen, and Jim. And we're sitting there in a restaurant here in Dallas, and Jim was very big on always taking notes. Mm-hmm. Diarize everything is what he used to tell us, right? And we're sitting there, none of us are taking notes. So he looks at me and he says, "Look, the two other guys were in their 50s. I was in my 30s." And he looked at me and he said, "These two guys are too old to listen." I said, knew exactly what he meant. I ran to my car, got my diary, came in, started writing some things down. Because obviously, we're having a casual lunch. You don't really want to take notes without a casual lunch, right?
Right.
But he made a great point, and you just made the same point so eloquently, and that's that you can learn from anybody. And his point was, you'll hear me speak again, but what if the waiter says something one time, can't remember what he said, and it was so profound that you didn't write it down?
Yeah.
I went, whoa. So then I started writing things down. I've got notes. I've got notes literally all over my office, from interviews to like what we're doing now, et cetera. Just write it all down, because especially as you get older, which you're aging very, very well. I'm not, unfortunately. Sure. So that being the case, I don't trust my memory. I write everything down. And then as long as I can remember where I put it, I can reread it.
You're doing good. It's funny that you say that, because I am audio notes. I have gotten to the point where I will wake up, like many people, in the middle of the night with that thought or that remembrance of something that is impactful. And I have to do a voice note, because, as you said, sometimes it floats out there into the great nothingness. And, we missed all of those great things. But yeah, I think that there are lessons to be learned all around us. We have to be open to it. We have to be willing to be flexible, to be students as much as, we are givers and share that knowledge. So,
well, and you've helped so many people over the years with your knowledge, because you're a student, and then you apply the information. You've created so much success for yourself and your family, but also for so many other people. So let's talk about that a little bit further. What would you say if tomorrow you couldn't do this anymore? What's been the number one lesson that you've learned in your life as a result of doing this business?
I think it's something I think about daily, and that is that we all have, as I referenced earlier, our own superpowers. We all have something magical within us, and everybody's superpower is different. And to really embrace that, I didn't come into this world with any privilege or status or any of those things. What I did was I could be the best that I could be, and I think that's something that I want everyone to understand is, never overlook that we all embrace something really cool within us. And it's just about bringing it out to the world, and if you haven't found it yet, keep looking, because all you have to do is look in the mirror. And so I think that's something that I look at daily, especially as I'm working with new individuals, is I feel like I have the gift of identifying people's superpowers and really, letting them do that. We hope that we give back in this world something really great, you know. And at the end of the day, if I couldn't do this tomorrow, I would hope that I've been able to impact people to understand they have some really incredible talents.
Great, great. So let me ask you a fun question.
Sure.
We've asked the serious ones. Here's the fun one.
Okay.
I know you're a veteran of the industry, so
Mhm.
I'm sure you've had your incentive trips and your other trips and your individual trips. If you had to narrow it down, is there one travel experience in particular that you had, someplace you went that you want to share with the audience?
Oh, I do. I had really the honor and privilege of going to a private home in France, and it wasn't in Paris. It was the beautiful countryside outside of Toulouse, France, and it was just such an incredible experience because it was a small, intimate group. We were in this beautiful, beautiful space and place, and when you get that time to really spend with a small group and have those conversations and really get to know people in, you know, gorgeous scenery that you only see on a postcard or, on the Travel Channel. Yeah, I'm going to say that's the one that sticks with me because it was such an enlightening and beautiful experience.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. I'm
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, it was pretty stunning. And especially at an estate, I mean, I don't own an estate in any other country. So, I don't own an estate at all. So it was those experiences, I think when you have them, you embrace them. Yeah.
And it's such a thing about our industry that it may be unique. I mean, like yourself, this is all I've ever done as an adult, so I don't know how the real world works outside of direct selling. But
Yep.
you think of the trips and you think, wow, how many people that never would have had that experience you just shared if they hadn't joined your
Oh,
company, got the
oh,
skills, right? Got the skills, right? The company doesn't fly you there and spend all that money to if you don't do anything, right? To give and
right.
take, right? And people that had that life experience that they never would have had living in wherever, the middle of
Yeah.
Wisconsin or the middle of
Yeah.
Texas or wherever, and they never even would have thought of it, and they had this remarkable life experience that they'll take to the grave as one special one. So, in wrapping up, Wendy, let's talk a little bit about the future. So, you've been at this a long time. You've been super
Hmm.
successful at it. Your
Hmm.
your your business is growing very nicely, right? And
Yeah.
everything's good. So, what's the next year, 3 years, 5 years look like?
I think the next year is really staying true to the what this industry is all about and the fundamentals that I think are eternal. Our channels have changed over the years. I think about the fact that, what I was here when, you were doing cold calling, and I was here during that period of time where we had direct mail, and then we went through all of those things. All of those things will continue to evolve. The catalyst of those communications will always still be the same, is that we're still building relationships. And that is the skill that I want to continue to grow and develop. Is how do we change, but how do we stay true to the relationships that are the foundation for what we do. Again, I think we're always going to have changes in technology and the things that the spaces and places that allow us to have even more reach than ever before. But it's never going to change the fact that, the best people that you have in your life and in your business are the ones that you personally touch. And for me, that will always be the focus of that. So I hope to continue to be able to help people each and every day. That's the thing that when I put my head on the pillow at night, I feel fabulous about, when I've been able to make an impact. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is really helping others to live their dream, their space, their place, the things that they've always wanted, and find great joy along the way. Going back to, you can talk really serious in this business, but if you don't have a sense of humor and you don't enjoy the ride, I always tell people, then go home. We're going to have bad days. Don't get me wrong. That's life. But let's have some laughter, let's have some fun. Let's enjoy those moments and, create the memories along the way with a lot of laughter.
So now let me ask you this. Your children now are grown, I'm assuming.
They are 23 and 25.
Have either of them, are they pursuing direct selling? Are they following mom in the industry, entrepreneur, something else, an entrepreneurial pursuit, or?
It's really funny. Neither of them are in the industry. However, I tell this to especially moms who come into this industry: never overlook the gift that you give your kids when you do this type of work, because I can tell you this, when your children watch you work all the time. I mean, my children were, they knew that when the door was shut, that, what, unless something's on fire, don't bug mom because she has a meeting or something is going on. They still to this day know, if I raise my finger like this and I'm on the phone, it means you better not make a noise. I'm serious. I'm on a call. And still to this day, and they're 23 and 25, they'll be with friends or whatever. If I put my hand up, they're like, oh, everybody be quiet. But I look at my children and I see what a gift I was able to give them, because when I look at them in what they're doing now as adults, how they deal with conflict resolution, how they manage, how they create relationships with others, how they, handle the good and the bad, I'm going to say, it's directly impacted by what they saw while they were growing up. I mean, my son can do a perfect rendition of me doing a team call, by the way. He can do a perfect rendition of me doing a team call because he heard it, And so I think, don't overlook the fact that, we have an influence and an impact on those around us because they've been watching it for 20 some years. Like you were talking about your wife. She's been watching you for a long time. So
very, very true. And the kids have too. One of them's following my footsteps. The other two could care less. They got other stuff going on in their lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, my son, and he was the one that never thought, even paid attention. And all of a sudden he turned 18. He's like, okay, I need to start doing this to make some extra money while I'm in college. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. So sometimes they follow, and sometimes they hear statements. I mean, like the first statement I ever heard was, for things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better. I heard that in 1983. Okay. 40 years ago. I'm still in college when I went to my first meeting, and I heard that, and every one of my kids can say that in their sleep, because they heard me say it, I don't know, probably 5,000 times.
Of course. Yeah. When we become lifetime coaches, they kind of live through that. And then, they move that forward as well. But I think that's some of the really incredible things that this industry allows for, is the fact that, we leave our teachings everywhere. And we hope that, again, going back to, if I had to leave the industry today, I would hope that I've made a positive impact on many people's lives. That's what we're here for.
Well, you certainly have, and I appreciate you being on the call. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to get to know you. And I'll give you the last word. You can sign us out here however you want, to give people a little bit of sage Wendy advice for going forward.
Oh my gosh. I think, in closing, I would just say, pursue the passion, pursue the things that, drive you to the space that you want to be. And we all want different things, and that's okay. We don't follow anybody's else's goals or their dreams or their path. Learn from others, but make your own path. Don't forget to, make your own legacy, and be proud of every step that you take to get there. We're going to continue moving.
Great advice. Thanks again, Wendy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, John.
thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.